Hello and welcome back to Build a CubeSat. My name is Manuel and today we are going to talk about assembling the solar panels for my CubeSat. And once again, I would like to thank PCBWay for sponsoring this video. A tiny bit of personal news before we jump in. Over the past few weeks it has become clear to me that I'm not making nearly as much progress on the CubeSat as I would like to, and so I have quit my day job. No need to worry right now, I have some work lined up for later in the year, but like this, at least for a few months now, I can work full-time on the CubeSat and make as much progress as I can in that time. Worth mentioning relevant to this is that a while ago I have set up a Patreon, so if you feel like this is a project that would deserve your support, I have put the link in the description. So let's go ahead now and take a closer look at assembling these solar panels. I have talked about the design of these panels in the previous structure update, so if you haven't seen that video, I'd recommend to pause here and go watch that first. I will link to it here and in the description. And as always, all of this is open source and freely available in the repo, which is also linked in the description. Of course, PCBWay did a fantastic job with these and made them exactly to spec. The tricky thing here was the edge plating, but more on that in a bit. Also a quick side note, sometimes I refer to these as PV panels, which stands for photovoltaic, and I basically use the term interchangeably with a solar panel. So as I was pretty confident that this panel design was going to work, I got a bunch of them made by PCBWay. I have 40 solar panel PCBs here and 10 of those with the aperture that I call hatches. The hatches just route all of the nets around the aperture and are intended to use if you have something that needs a clear view of the outside, like a camera or an antenna. Just as a quick preview, this is how the panels are supposed to fit together. The panels sit on top of the red magnet torquer PCB, which is just a placeholder for now, and are held in place by these braces on the outside, which are bolted to a nut plate on the inside. So the space constraints in this design mean that we need a virtually zero profile coplanar connector that would allow the panels to connect together like this. The number of positions for this connector is slightly arbitrary, but I went with 14 to have plenty for future data connections and redundancy. 2 more are reserved for the magnet torquer panel, so on the EPS you will find 16 positions. On this edge of the panel we have these Castellations, into which I am planning to solder these tiny pin receptacles, which we also use on the EPS. And on the other side we have matching slots that accept these pins. The pins are about 0.5 mm in diameter, so originally I sized the slots for a friction fit, thinking that I would stick them in and have them stay put while I solder them. Of course I didn't take into account that this is really narrow for what is basically a castellated slot. The engineers over at PCBWay thankfully noticed my mistake, and after some discussion with my sales rep Remy, I made the slot 0.6 mm wide, which worked for plating. The people over at PCBWay have consistently been super helpful and very nice, which is a real blessing for a beginner like me, so thanks to them. Now the big unknown still was, would I be able to assemble this? And I'm happy to report that things are looking okay-ish. The way I went about it is the following. Step 1. Reflow solder the solar cells. That was pretty straightforward. Slap on some paste and put them on the griddle. Next time I will probably want to be a bit more intentional with the solder paste application, so I get the same amount on each pad. But overall this worked. Step 2. Add the receptacles. This was the step I was most worried about because it seemed super finicky. But actually, just with a regular pair of pliers and some decent lighting, it was reasonably easy and quick to push the receptacles in. They stay put pretty well, and the light touch with the pliers is enough to align them with the board, so that was a pleasant surprise. Now step 4, soldering them, was a little trickier. My first attempt was to slather on some soldering paste and try reflowing, but the paste would mostly just run down. I mean, it kind of worked, but I didn't trust it. So I tried hand soldering, which worked much better. I did end up picking up a soldering station with a bit more punch, and with this it soldered pretty nicely, but a new problem arose. The solder would run down to the bottom of the receptacle and fill it up from below. The obvious fix for this is to make the pads less tall, which I already did in the KiCad file. PCBWay has done a great job with the edge plating the first time around, and I hope this will still be manufacturable, but of course I will have to check with them. And for the ones I already have here, I'm just going to try and concentrate the solder on the top part of the pad. Now with a row of these receptacles soldered, I could move on to step 5. Apply pins, align them with the opposite end of the other panel and solder them in. I tried to avoid having to manufacture a separate jig this way, and it worked reasonably well. You may be wondering why the pins stick out differently. This is so the ground pins always make contact first to reduce the risk from electrostatic discharge. I don't know if it's strictly necessary, but it can't hurt. Step 6 is to solder on the diodes on the back. For now there are only 2 bypass diodes and a blocking diode. I didn't shoot that part, but here's the final result after cleaning off the flux residue with some isopropyl alcohol. To be honest, I grew a little impatient there towards the end and just slapped on the diodes haphazardly with a soldering iron, where hot air would have been a much better choice. So the soldering on these panels is not exactly pretty, but honestly it doesn't have to be. As for the moment we are just prototyping, and I also think that I will get better at assembling these panels with some practice. I think I haven't talked about what these diodes are for yet. So D1 is a reverse current blocking diode. As the spacecraft slowly rotates, only one side will receive the bulk of the sun's illumination at any time, and the other sides are more or less in shade. Now D1 protects the shaded sides from current flowing back into them and damaging the cells. D2 and 3 are bypass diodes. Should one of these cells fail open, current will be able to flow around them through the bypass diodes, and this will prevent all the other cells connected to this panel from going down as well. One thing that I would like to add in the future are solderable spacers below the solar cells so that I could underfill them with epoxy, because I doubt that these would survive vibration testing just with the 2 blobs of solder holding them in place. Turns out that Milmax makes a variant of these discs that are actually targets for like spring-loaded pogo pins, but they make a variant that is 1.65 millimeters tall, which is more or less the same height as the diameter of a 16 or 18 gauge syringe. So with some space below the solar cells, I would like to squeeze epoxy in and then probably degas it so it would bubble up a bit and hopefully hold the solar cell in place. It wouldn't really make sense to try on this revision of the design, because I would need an area that is free from the solder mask and also from the copper layer so that the epoxy could adhere directly to the substrate. Anyways, there's a step 7 for the panels that are actually connecting to the EPS, and this is where things didn't go that great. If you have seen the previous structure update, you may remember that I am planning to use these right angle pin headers to connect 1 panel per side to the EPS. So when I laid out the panels in KiCad, I was in a bit of a rush and I assumed that the header would go in that way, when in reality it needs to go in the other way around so it doesn't stick out too much. The minor problem now is that these pins are a bit thicker than the other ones and they won't fit. Luckily, that was an easy solve. I set up a CNC program to drill them out and did so with my Carvera CNC. But Manuel, I hear you say, this will remove all the plating in the plated through hole. Yes, dear friend, you are right, but as I am soldering them on from the back, I only need that pad. Now, the other problem is that the blocking diode interferes with the connector if it's in that orientation. Definitely an easy solve for the next revision, but for the ones I already have, I'm just going to use one of the other 2 connector positions. So these other 2 rows are intended so you can shift the position of the EPS relative to the connecting panel up or down by 10 millimeters. Right now I'm not worried about that too much, so using one of the other rows is fine. The eagle-eyed among you may already have spotted not 1 but 2 more problems, both of which I made quick work of. The first one is that on the top and bottom PV panels the diodes interfere with the magnetometer placeholder. Easy fix, for the moment I will just not place these bypass diodes. The second one is much more stupid. These here are all of the pins between 2 panels, and this is a brace. Yes, there really is 1 slot missing in the brace, which throws off the whole spacing by 1/2. Superb. Well, since these PEK parts are kind of pricey, I slapped together a fixture, printed it, and just went to town with the Carvera, milling out the whole space for the pins. I already fixed that error in the current CAD file. And when all of this was solved, it turned out that there was a whole other can of worms waiting for me. The nut plates were intended as a temporary fix because I hadn't found a better structure to bolt the panels to yet. It turned out that I didn't really think them through. The idea was that you place them on the rails and then slide the whole panel assembly in. But when designing that, I didn't realize this obvious interference here. Sometimes I can just stare at a design in CAD for hours without realizing the obvious problems, And that's why, for me at least, there is nothing like actually trying to put it together physically. When it comes to assembling the CubeSat, what I would like to be able to do is to add the stacks of PCBs on either side of the EPS first, and have physical access to them for as long as possible before sliding in the side panels towards the end and then bolt everything down. What I will have to do for this revision of the hardware is a bit more awkward, but it will be okay. I think I'll have to add the C- nut plates first, and then add the stacks of PCBs on either side, and then slide the rest of the side panel assembly in and bolt everything down. Yeah, it's a bit awkward, but it will do for the test flight in June. Unfortunately, I can't show you this right now because I only have a revision 1 EPS bay here, which isn't compatible with the McIntosh placeholder. Or rather, I should say fortunately, because a viewer decided to buy the revision 2 EPS bay I had, along with a few other parts, to support the channel. So shout out to my new friend Michael from Cyprus. So the TLDR for the moment is that all the panel stuff needs work, but it is fine for the test flight in June, and the fixes that are needed are reasonably easy to implement. While these designs are far from flawless, I did learn a lot from them. Now, as spring is approaching and we're getting back some sunlight, I will be testing these modules, and if they work, assemble a bunch more. After all, I need 16 of those to fully cover a 2U CubeSat. So hopefully next month I can report back to you with a new revision of the EPS board with working solar charging. Until then, thank you very much to PCBWay for sponsoring this video and to you for watching. Let me know if you liked this episode, and I will see you in the next one.